Hey everybody, so I've been on vacation, but I'm back and I want to give you a quick update on the Patel case. First of all, I want to start with the fact that I got a lot of feedback on my last video where I showed the pictures of the officers, the investigators, the prosecutors in Mr. Patel's case. Overwhelming support from people. Everybody has been lovely, literally like less than 5 negative comments and responses. The funny part about it to me, though, is people that are like, wow, I can't believe that you were willing to show people's faces like that. Well, number one, I didn't lie about them. I'm being very factual, maybe a little satirical, but very factual. But the other thing I want you to do is pay attention to the news across the country. Whenever a police chief or a prosecutor, district attorney goes on television or talks to the media, when there's been an arrest, not a conviction, but an arrest. They show somebody's mugshot. They talk about the bad things that that person has done, even though that person has not been convicted. And to me, how is that any different than me showing the pictures of the people that arrested them and are prosecuting them? It should be a level playing field. If you're going to go out to destroy somebody's reputation from the get-go just for an arrest, what's wrong with providing factual information about the people that are prosecuting it? To me, it's the same thing. So I don't see that it's a big deal at all. And I have personally experienced a case where I had an unaliving case where my client was threatened, his family was threatened, and the judge ended up throwing out the unaliving case as self-defense. And where were those prosecutors afterwards? You know, when the case had been thrown out, to say, oh, well, yeah, maybe it was self-defense. They don't really make a lot of press statements when a case has been thrown out. Anyway, so that's my 411 on that. Let me talk to you about the other thing that I should have covered better before, but I'm going to catch up now and do that. I want to show you all this. This is, and you can pause to read it. There's 2 screenshots. This is the press statement that was issued by Sonia Allen's office after the bond hearing. And this just fires me up, because if you read this and you hadn't seen the bond hearing, you would think, oh, well, they just let Judge Poole decide. The prosecutor said, Your Honor, whatever you think is best, we won't get involved. That is absolutely not what happened. I was in that bond hearing. A lot of other defense attorneys were in that bond hearing. And by the way, feel free to go watch it yourself on YouTube. Jesse Evans was the prosecutor that argued the bond hearing. And in that hearing, he brought up the fact that Mr. Patel had a prior conviction, that he has a pending DUI. He made it sound like Mr. Patel was the criminal of the century. He rushed an indictment to prevent Mr. Patel from being able to get a bond before that bond hearing. And by the way, they could have consented to a bond that entire time that Mr. Patel was in jail, but they refused. So they fought tooth and nail all the way through that bond hearing to try to keep Mr. Patel from getting out of jail. And he even went so far as to suggest that Mr. Patel was intoxicated at the Walmart, even though there was not a shred of evidence, not even a statement from Caroline Miller in the police report, that Mr. Patel was intoxicated or smelled of alcohol. It was absolutely just thrown in there to try to make him look worse. Now you go back and you read that district attorney's press release and they say, oh, well, it was left up to the discretion of the judge. All bond hearings are at the discretion of the judge. That's what the judge is there for. If they were trying to make it look like they would have willingly let him out, they could have consented to a bond and they could have not indicted him so quickly. So that just makes me so angry that they are trying to rewrite history after they got beaten in a bond hearing to try to make it look like they really weren't trying to keep him in jail. That's just the way it shook out. So I hope that makes you as angry as it makes me, because it's ridiculous. Now, going forward, what can happen? Well, we are still waiting for his case to get dismissed. Why hasn't it been dismissed yet? My speculation is, as I've alluded to before, is that they are trying to figure out some way to get out of this that doesn't expose them to so much civil liability. Because obviously, when so many people have done something wrong, there is that worry that they're going to get sued. And I suspect they are going to get sued. And so maybe they're hoping there's some magic formula out there where they can shield themselves from liability. Here's what I'll say about this, and I hope that folks agree with me. We put our trust in prosecutors to do the right thing. They are supposed to be seeking justice. A DA, an elected official, has the public trust to seek justice and do the right thing. So what does justice and doing the right thing look like in this case? It looks like they need to stand up right away and say, you know what? We screwed up. We are so sorry, Mr. Patel. This was wrong from the get-go. That we are dismissing this case. Maybe they are looking into some criminal charges against Caroline Miller. Don't know where that'll go, but they certainly should be looking into it. And they're going to have to take it on the chin with regard to civil liability because they screwed up. They do not have the moral high ground here. They are not the justice-seeking do-gooders here. They are looking like the bad actors who need to straighten themselves out. So that's what I would hope would happen here. I'll see whether or not that does happen, and I'll certainly let you know if it does. But can they dismiss this case? Absolutely. They can dismiss it today. They can dismiss it tomorrow. All they have to do is fill out a form called a null prosequi, which is basically Latin for we're dismissing this case. They submit it to Judge Poole, who I would suspect would have no problem signing it, especially after he saw that bond hearing. And then they would just have to walk away. That would be the right thing for them to do. Now, can Judge Poole step in and just dismiss this case immediately? No, unfortunately, he can't just do that on his own. He has to be presented with the right legal vehicle to allow him to do that. Now, there is no motion to dismiss in the criminal side of law in Georgia. There are things like demurrers, which are a certain kind of objection to the way the indictment was done. I'm not sure whether or not those are appropriate in this case, but even then, that would still allow, even if a judge granted a certain kind of demurrer, the prosecution could still reindict if they wanted to. The only other way that I see it's possible that there could be a defense-initiated motion to dismiss this case would be if we got all the way to a jury trial. And after the state rested in their case, the defense attorney can stand up and move for what's called a directed verdict, where they're asking the judge to take the case away from a jury because it is, even with all the evidence presented by the state, there's no possible way that a jury could find this man guilty. And so they're asking the judge to go ahead and do that instead, find him not guilty, and just move on from there. Those are rare, rarely granted. But this might actually be a case where it could be granted if the state were dumb enough to get this case all the way to a jury trial. So I don't know at this point what the state's waiting for. If they have some type of evidence that conclusively proves that Mr. Patel intended to nab a child, by all means, let's see it. I have speculated in the past that are they going to try to use Miss Miller's children as witnesses? Surely they're not going to do that. And the other option might be, Jesse Evans alluded to at the bond hearing that he had an interview of Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel cooperated with the police, and Mr. Patel felt bad for what happened. Well, I haven't heard the interview, but speculating, if he said, I feel terrible, yes, maybe she was afraid, he can say all of that and still have not committed a crime. Just because your behavior is misinterpreted by someone else doesn't make you criminally responsible for her misinterpretation. We certainly know that Miss Miller has an odd history when it comes to prior accusations and social media posts, that she is not a reliable source. So even if Mr. Patel did say in this interview, gosh, I feel terrible, if that's the way she felt, and maybe she did think that, that doesn't make you criminally responsible. Certainly doesn't mean that you attempted to nab a child. So I would really like it if the district attorney's office would do the right thing here and finally make a decision that they can stand behind that looks like justice, which is dismissing this case. So once I hear more, I will let you know and keep you updated.